Escade says there are minor gods called Archons who can cross the threshold. Supposedly, when they enter our world, they must inhabit a human body, which is a vessel. They cannot live outside it. Not for very long. I wanted to see the painting again, in case it could help us understand it a bit better. What they did to Sophia is part of a ritual. I read members of Gnostic sects offered their bodies as a release from the material world.
I don't know. Maybe. I try to get something out of Blanca, but when she goes all mystic, all I can think about is punching her.
There was an angel that emerged from the cloud. Fire pouring out of its face, its body covered in blood, and its name was... Yaldabaoth.
You were talking about a snake with the head of a lion!
I've seen them, Gian. I've seen them, just like Sophia. They are demons. That's what the kingdom is, and the cult will allow them in.
You need psychological help, Pablo. Fuck you straight, Jack.
When the cycle is completed before the temple gate, the lonely king will come with all the stars and fulfill what was announced. It's the fucking apocalypse, Gian.
Pablo.
Both, first and last. I have opened a door to the world that you had closed for all eternity. Lift Sophia's third veil. Do not fear the flesh, and do not love it. Sacrifice the flesh that is in your soul. Sacrifice your family. Sacrifice your friends.
Welcome, everybody, and we are live. I hope you're liking, or you like that little introduction, and you're wondering what are some of the movie clips. That's from the Netflix series Feria, which draws heavily on Gnosticism. Not a bad show, but in this show, the kooky occult group are the Gnostics. They blame it on the Gnostics, which is not so bad. In these sort of Lovecraftian films, it's usually some Thelema or Theosophy group who's the bad guys, or some Charles Manson offshoot. But in Feria, it's the Gnostics who are to blame, and we take our villain status very proudly. And I thought I would make this new intro because today is a very special show for a special event with some special guests and some very special content, bonus content here on AB Live. So there are two reasons for this podcast. My name is Miguel Connor. I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. I hope you're writing your own gospel and living your own myth. And there are two purposes for this. And I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent because these are strange times. I guess tonight they're bombing a nuclear plant in the Ukraine. So what did somebody say today on social media? History repeats, but she didn't think they were going to squeeze the entire 20th century in 5 years here in the 20th. But it is what it is. But anyway, there are two purposes for this show. One is to summarize and promote the Astro Gnosis conference that is happening in a couple of weeks. And this conference is, it's very special because this is a first of its kind. This is where, as I say, Gnosticism and the stars meet. Somebody asked me the other day, what is Astronosis? Well, you might as well ask, what is sadhana? What is the Portuguese concept of força? What is gnosis? What is enlightenment? It's more of an experience than anything. But I think my point is, especially in my presentation, Gnosticism and Stargates, that yes, the stars were important to the ancients. The stars are important to today's occultists and mystics. And in fact, some of them travel the stars. But as Eric Davis said, nobody went farther out than the Gnostics. They went way out. They went out to the final frontier. They interacted and recorded these extraterrestrial other beings. They opened star portals and they went to the end of infinity to interact with this alien god, came back with all this information and transformative energies. And that's why I think Astronosis is important, especially in these hard times, because we need to look back at the stars. That's where so many answers are. That's where we came from. If we are stardust, then that's what we are. We are part of the stars. And as the Gnostic said, the stars are not just outside, they're also in our heads. The universe is housed within us, as above, so below. And more than ever, I think we need to tap into this gnosis, into this information before it's too late for this planet. So that's the idea of Astronosis, and our guests, three presenters that we have here tonight, come with invaluable information to understand Astronosis and get us on track as humans, get us to take that inward journey to the stars and that outward journey to the stars. It's the same damn journey. And that's what I want this show and Astronosis is that helpful information for you, because I think these are definitely strange times. As I said, maybe we are experiencing the entire 20th century. Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes. And it seems like it is rhyming very hard today. I've said on the podcast that we are never going back to the old normal. It's not going to happen. As I've talked to people, it would just made sense.
Uh-oh.
It looks like Miguel's network connection has temporarily become interrupted. You guys can still hear me, right? Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Invasion. Something was going to happen. Just damn you, Archons! I was just about to. I knew you were going to get me. I was on this cool tangent. What was I saying? Yes, history is definitely repeating, and we're never going back to the old normal. And I don't know if it's because the Archons, the deep state, what's going on, but it is what it is, and we need to be prepared for it. And we need to look inward, and we need to look at the stars. It reminds me of the great song lyrics by Joni Mitchell in Woodstock. And it goes, "We are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. We are stardust, we are golden, we are caught in the devil's bargain, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden." Wise words today. And I have other tangents to go into, but I think the Archons kind of gave me a tap on the shoulder. So let's get to the really interesting people tonight. With us tonight, we are blessed and honored to have Sid Ropp. Sid, thanks for coming back to the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And with us also, it's great to have a presenter and also a past guest and an individual who has contributed so much to the occult circles, and that is Laurence Galian. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Buenas noches. Good evening, everyone.
Glad you are here. And with us too, we've got the spaceman himself, the moon dog himself.
Yeah,
Vince, how are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. A little bit worried, maybe, about people, bombing things they shouldn't, like nuclear plants. But
what could possibly go wrong?
I don't. It's on fire now. I just saw.
Yeah.
It's on fire. They better turn it off. They got to scram the reactors.
Is it going to be like that movie Airplane where the guy just pulls a plug and just kidding? Maybe that's it. Pull a plug. Reboot it. I don't know.
That's right. Get them rods in there.
But that's it. I think the Archons are the powers that be want to keep us in a state of stress and fear. I have no doubt, because what's happening in this world in the last few years is not logical, makes no sense. It's not productive. There's nothing productive about wars and killing each other and the horrible divide and conquer that we find ourselves in this world. So there is some very powerful manipulation, and it is up to break away from this. I think my advice to people is this may not be the best time to be alive, but it's the best time to be awake, because the Archons are definitely showing their cards on the table, and they are exposing themselves behind the curtain. There's a quote in one of my favorite series, Legion, where David Haller says at the end of the world, this apocalyptic battle between Professor X and evil mutants and time demons, and he simply says, "This is the end, the beginning, the end. What it all means is not for us to know. It is for history to decide. All we can do is play the parts as written. All we can do is know ourselves." And I think that's good advice in any time. So awesome. And also very important on a side note, a reason to have this show is to promote not just the conference, but that now you can get tickets online and stream Astro Gnosis online. We will have the entire thing, all the presentations there, all the roundtables, and some very special bonuses towards the end. So please, if you want to, it'll be on Zoom, and you will be getting replays right after. So please go to the website, or here's the link as you see it, or I'll have it in the show notes, or go to my homepage, thegodabovegod.com, and check it out. And it should be a good one. And again, if you miss it, you will get replays, and you'll see my presentation, Vance's, Laurence's, Sid's, and the other guests, Chris Knowles, Gordon White, and other individuals. So get your tickets online, register, and it's going to be a good one. And there's still a chance for you to show up physically. So other than that, it's good to see people in the chat. If you have questions for any of our guests, please write them in all caps, or a lot of questions, and we'll get them to you as soon as possible. If you want to do a super chat, we will put you at the top, but we will do our best to get to your questions. So I guess, Sid, first I'd ask you, what do you think of these days, and what are the solutions? How can Gnosis help us, or how can your work that you've discovered in all your years of research and revelations help humanity?
Well, that's a big question, huh? Not like we're carrying the burden.
It's time for big questions. It's time for those big questions.
It certainly appears as though the Archons are making a full court press for complete mastery of this universe. And the way that the demiurge and the Archons work is through power. It's power for power's sake. They don't care about the agenda. They could care less about the Green New Deal. They could care less about whether or not we wear masks, other than the fact that they want to make us do what they want us to do. And that is the whole point of it. The agenda could be anything at all, but the point is power for power's sake. And that is literally all they are after. And the reason they don't like us is because we are the descendants of the eons of the fullness of God. We outrank them ethereally. The demiurge and the Archons that rolled out of the demiurge upon the fall, they are broken. They are a fallen eon, and they are fractal level down from that fallen eon. So if the one that fell was an eon, these guys rolled out, so they're fractal level down. We are not broken. We are birthed by the eons. We are the fruit of the eons, the children, much beloved of the eons of the fullness of God. And we are smart. We are smarter. We have goodness. We have a remembrance of the Father and of the fullness, maybe a dim remembrance, but in our hearts, we generally hope for paradise. We generally hope that someone will love us and take care of us. The demiurge and the Archons have no recollection of the fullness, and they just hate us because we are stronger than they are. And for them, it's all about power. And so I think that's what they're doing. And they love technology because technology enslaves us. As we know, all these problems with the internet, or censorship, only some people can talk and some people can't. That's archonic for sure. So that's I'll kick it off with that.
That's really well said, and I think you hit it on the spot. And what do you think we need to do to remember our place in the stars? Do you do any rituals? Is it studying? What can we do, Sid?
Well, so there is only, I have a much simpler view of Gnosticism than I think many of your listeners. I really think there is only one Gnosis, and Gnosis means the knowledge. And I think the Gnosis we're supposed to realize is that we are the fruit of the eons, and that the Father and the Son and the fullness, they're right up there above us, and they love us, and they're going to take care of us. That is all we need to know. That's all. We can't win this battle of the world. We can't run over to Ukraine and stop the fire in the plant or whatever's going on, but we can trust that the eons will. We can trust that there is an ultimate plan. So, I am kind of eschatological in that way. I do think there will be an end time, and we may be. It certainly feels like we're in end times, but whether or not we are, it's not our burden to carry. It's the burden of the eons or the burden of the Redeemer. That's their burden, and they're supposed to take care of us. So all we have to do is remember the Gnosis, don't fall into despair, because we are more powerful inherently than the demiurge and the Archons. So I would just say that. What I do is I try to remember the fullness right above me. I picture the fullness as being right. You see that light above me? That's the fullness right there. I picture the fullness of God literally floating above my head at all times that I'm aware of it. And to help me remember, I pay attention to those silly numbers on the clock. 111, 1111, 1010, 12, 34, 333, 444, 555. I pay it to every time I see those numbers on the clock. And I see them all the time. It seems as though practically every time I look at a clock, it's one of those interesting numbers. All I do is roll back upward. That's what my cue is to remember the fullness of God. And so I try to stay plugged in as much as possible, because our only job is to love. See, we have a warrior spirit because we are formed after some archons who are like warriors. However, our war was supposed to be fought with love. We were supposed to come at them with hugs and kisses, and we forgot all about that. Now we just want to lop off heads and fire bombs.
Very well said indeed. Yes, we must remember. Well, Laurence, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, I guess I would like to start off by quoting Sun Tzu, the famous author of, I think the book is called The Art of War.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And I think I'm just following up on some of what Sid said, that we have to know who we are. We have to know who the Archons are, who the eons are, and of course, the God above God, most importantly of all. And so yes, it's a matter of gnosis, of knowledge. I would say that's what it comes down to. This we were joking before about how this might be the last podcast because of what's happening with this horrible nuclear plant, it's really very, very important for us to remember that we are spirit, deep down inside that in reality we are pure spirit, and all this physical stuff. I mean, Vance, I'm sure you can enlighten us about quantum physics, how all this is just an illusion. Our brain is creating this idea of a reality and so forth. But basically, everything is just space and emptiness, and we have to look and see what is inside, what's the reality, and not get so caught up in what we think is this physical plane. And yes, I have practiced many techniques to know the divine self, our inner reality, and I want to offer them at the conference. But tonight being such a incredible night, and I don't mind saying that I am a little worried and I'm a little scared. Uh, I'm not Mr. Perfect in any way, but yes, there are ways to know the God above God. There are ways to send a prayer up to the heavens, and beyond the heavens, to God, through God, and beyond God. So I think I should stop there.
No, because I think two things, Laurence. The Archon mind parasites, how are they playing in today's geopolitical world? And I think you and I agree that Sophia must return.
Absolutely. It was a synchronicity that just before the show, I was watching YouTube, and they had this beautiful, I guess, concert of great women composers, mostly unknown women composers. And their music was spectacular. It's so beautiful. And I'll put up the link on my Facebook site. But yes, we need the return of the divine feminine. And I have devoted a great deal of my life to help enlighten people, to teach people about the divine feminine, and my love for the divine feminine, my love for Sophia. And so, of course, her return is extremely important. Uh, I believe that she is already with us. That is part of my myth. That's part of my gnosis. And I do think that we can call on her right now, this very minute. As horrible as things are, I do believe we can shout out, if you want to call it a prayer, whatever you want to call it, that she is with us.
Well, that's well said indeed. And what do you think? Vince, what is your opinion? I know we've had other shows where we think Scott Smith, where there are maybe these entities up there that stop us from blowing up ourselves. What do you think of this? Or what do you think of this whole situation these days?
Well,
These
they must
Gnostic
be on
times.
yeah, they must be on vacation.
Spring
So,
break.
yeah. Well, you know, it occurred to me a couple of things. Number one, I think all the archons are like sitting gathered around Mr. Putin these days, because he is definitely on the rampage. I've always understood that what he's doing. I don't approve of it, of course, in any way, shape, or form. But we have to uh, remember the way I think about the Archons and the Aldebaoth is that they're soulless automatons, just like the technology that we create to use as our tools. But these tools are like autonomous tools. They're like buzz saws that somebody started up, and like a chainsaw, you start up the chainsaw and then you just let it rattle around and cut things. That's part of the universe. The physical universe is like a giant machine. It runs by rules, and we are the ones who bring from the pleroma and the archons and so forth. We're the ones who bring the soul into the universe, just like Sophia did. So hopefully in some way, and I too, like Sid and Laurence, we can't expect to command physical reality, but we have to command ourselves, and keep ourselves from going down the drain and succumbing to fear, as some of the people on the chat pointed out to me. And what can I say beyond that? It's strange. I grew up, in and I think Laurence is probably around my age, in the shadow of the Cold War, and we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and we were running outside. Look, and up in the sky, and there was like weird lights in New Jersey over the, like some sort of weird smoke. I remember, and we all thought somebody had dropped a nuclear bomb on us or something. And I was like 9 years old. I'm like, "Rah!" So those things kind of I saw something on the internet, though. Somebody says, I just went out and got myself a Generation X bomb shelter, and it was a picture of a desk, a classroom desk.
That's what I was
Yeah,
going
what-
to say. Duck and cover. I was raised in duck and cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really
Get
going to
under
help
your
us.
desk,
Going
and
under
that's
your
gonna help.
desk is going to help you from a nuclear bomb. Yeah, really smart.
Maybe we should spend the night under our desk tonight, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I do think that, yes, that fear is definitely the mind fuck. And another aspect of the archontic attack consists of creating fear within the individual, and then that fear spreads to the group. And I mean, there's so many people out there who are under the sway of what I call mind parasites or alien parasites, that these mind parasites are continually whispering into our ears. And I would include with them the news people. Now, I know many of them are being very brave and courageous and so forth. But really, where do they make their money? Right? They make their money when there's a war, when there's any kind of bombing, any kind of school shooting. That's great to create fear in the populace. And oh boy, tonight they must be just jumping and shouting for joy that a nuclear plant has been bombed, because that's going to really raise the ratings. So I think the archons are very much entrenched inside the minds of a lot of the news people. And we know for a fact that the FBI and the CIA have involved themselves in just about every news service that exists. They make no bones about it. And they're, the military, what we have, I guess, the greatest military in the world, because all we do is spend money on our military. And why do we do that? Because we're afraid. We want to be number one. We want to be the biggest, strongest, whatever person on the block. So anyway, yes, I agree with that thing about fear. Fear spreads so quickly, and there's so many people who are so quick to spread that fear for the dollar, for a buck.
Yeah, it's insane how they have weaponized fear, and it's working really well. I see the same bullshit I see after 9/11, the same propaganda, the same thing. Somebody was going, well, where are the moderate Russians? Remember, it was the moderate Muslims who had to speak out. There's that divide and conquer where we're vilifying the Russian people. They've banned cats from this special, they banned Russian cats from this special worldwide show. They just banned Russia from the Paralympics, which used to be the special. What did these poor people do that just want to participate in the Olympics, or the soccer players from the World Cup? It's that horrible divide and conquer that's going on across the world, and it's growing in our country because it's, what side are you on? Are you a secret Russian? Are you a secret imperialist? It's you guys remember that song? I think it was The Police, Russians, where Sting is wondering what a Russian must feel like, or Elton John's Nikita, where they're trying to have empathy for the other, because if they divide, like Pink Floyd sang, us and them, that's when we start dehumanizing others, and people start dehumanizing us, and we become simple numbers in the thing. So I see the same fog of war propaganda. It's all about following the money. It's all about it's a Game of Thrones. Everybody in the top has blood on their hands. Everybody has an agenda of money. It's a matter of seeing through this and the propaganda of the media, and also, as you're saying, Laurence, the propaganda of the mind parasites inside of us that are just having a delicious meal with the fear and anger and everything that is slowly killing us and turning us into machines. So.
Well, and before this whole Ukrainian situation, let's not forget the past couple of years of COVID. And
that's often everybody forgot. That was yesterday.
That was all right? About fear. That was all about fear. And the most fearful people, I think they're afraid of death. I think a lot of the people that are most fearful of COVID are seeking some sense of control over their body, but that isn't the way to get it. And as far as pointing fingers, as far as creating division and othering, well, that is completely going on in our politics. And used to be that the politicians, they could work across the aisle. They could have disagreements, but still be able to converse. But now they've been pushed so far apart that there is no commonality, no place where you can say you agree. And of course, they've dragged us all apart with them. They've dragged half of the people to one side and half of the people to the other side, because you can't even talk to each other about anything now.
No, right? It's a psyop. It's incredible. The destruction
It's a very,
of a human
very
individuality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, look inward, see what's going on. Dream time is coming. It's the rules haven't changed. It's the same solutions as it always was. So, but that's why we're here. So great comments in the chat. I want to get to Sid's little teaser, which is relevant to what we've been talking about. It's relevant for your cosmic freedom from the stars, from the Archons, from all the enemies and friends that the Gnostics decoded up there, which are also within us too. But any questions from the audience, Vance, or yourself?
I do have a couple here. Brielle Perlman. Oh, hi, Birdie. That's
Birdie has a question.
He has a question. He wants to know if his bird seed's going to be here tomorrow.
Very important.
So Brielle wants to know, do you believe the Archons are sentient, or like a virus that replicates, feed, and infects?
I don't. What do you think?
Go ahead, Sid. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Laurence. You wrote the book on that.
Well, I think they're robotic, and a lot of people say that they do appear to be like the extraterrestrials, or the typical image of the extraterrestrial, but they do share, I would say, a great deal in common with the way we look physically, and that when we're walking down the street, we could be walking next to an Archon without knowing it. They are experts at deception, at using psionic powers to manipulate us through telepathy and through other methods of extrasensory perception, so that they basically create movies in our minds. I think, yeah, I kind of see them as insectoid-like. There's many people who write that they live in hives near the planet Saturn, and Saturn, speaking astrologically, would be the ideal place for Yaldabaoth and his archons to be situated. Yes, it said that they do live in hive-like structures near the planet Saturn or on the planet Saturn. Yeah, that's how I would answer that. They are extremely powerful with their ways of manipulating our minds. But as far as whether they are corporeal or incorporeal, I don't think it really matters. So many people, debate this and are they aliens, or what are they? But I would say the point is that yes, they are aliens in the sense that they come from outside. They are invaders. And that's what's happening right now. We are seeing Russia invading the Ukraine. And this is so much like what the Archons are doing to us. We make no mistake, we are under invasion. We are under invasion by the Archons. And it may look tonight like a bombing of a nuclear plant. That's the way it may look. But the reality is that we are under a spiritual invasion of beings that seek to suck our very souls out of us. And that is what we must stop. It's not time to be worrying. It's time to be praying. It's time to be making contact with the divine reality within ourselves, knowing who we are, and realizing that there's an invasion going on, but it's much greater than just Russia versus the Ukraine.
Well said indeed. And for the audience, Laurence's great book, Alien Parasites, 40 Gnostic Truths to Defeat the Archon Invasion. This is an excellent book. I know Laurence should have been marketing better, because if you think the work of, let's say, Paul Levy, Jerry Marzinski, David Icke, John Lamlash is important, should be in your bookshelf with those writers. And Laurence also, he talks about the alien mind parasites, the Archons, but it's chock full of solutions, diet, meditations, all the stuff to have a holistic way to clean yourself and to be the best version of yourself. In fact, Laurence, he emails me about the conference, and I'm more interested in him giving me advice on herbs. So he's become my druid or herb master lately. It's like, because I want to clean my body too and get my mind to a better, because something inside of me says, yes, we are under attack. This is the time to go to war, but the war is a war of, like you said, Sun Tzu, know yourself, know what you need, what your body needs, what your mind needs, what your soul needs. So get his book, and he'll give you more during the presentation.
And I would remind you that we are more powerful than the Archons.
Mm-hmm.
I think people open themselves up to the Archons through fear and through whatever negative thing they're doing. They're opening themselves up. But if instead of focusing on vice and fear, you focus on the Father, then you will realize your power. We are already redeemed. We're already more powerful. We just have to know that we are.
Well said. Yeah, they fool us into thinking we're just human, or that we're animals, or the best thing we can do is have an iPhone and get laid and drink, or whatever the hell, watch TV, watch whatever's on TV or
Right.
streaming. So that kind of thing. It's a joke. It's a lie. All right. Well, let's get to your presentation, Sid, for your teaser, and then we'll get to Laurence's presentation, or his
Okay.
teaser too, and then we'll talk about Vance and myself.
All right.
If the Archons allow it.
Yes.
Okay.
If the
Unless that
Archons
plant
allow it.
explodes and we're in ashes. Get under your desk. Get under your desk now.
My presentation is as the Gnostic Gospel Illuminated meets the simple explanation of absolutely everything. And the presentation, of course, is going to be about an hour. So I'm really going to try not to go into too much depth here. I've only got 5 slides to share with you, or 6 slides. But I wrote a theory of everything back in 2010. And the first edition of my book, A Simple Explanation, was published in 2010 or 2012. And it is a form of gnosis, as it turns out, even though I wasn't reading any of the Gnostic books at the time. My theory has to do with several basic thoughts. And one of them, go ahead and put the next slide up. It's called the Simple Golden Rule. It's from the Simple Explanation. And my simple golden rule is that units of consciousness, and by the way, a unit of consciousness, if the Father is the ground state of consciousness, and the Son is a particularization of the Father, it's the same as the Father, but it's a monad now. It's in a place. And then the Son broke off into this hierarchical system that we call the fullness of God. The simple golden rule says that every one of those units of consciousness, whether it's the Son or each one of the countless numbers of eons, that they hold hands with other units of consciousness and work together to build something greater than any of them could build by themselves. And the way they do that, they share information, they share assistance, and they share love. We could be talking about humans in a work group working on a project. We could be talking about the cells in our body, like our heart cells. All the heart cells work with the other heart cells to build the heart, and together they make the heart beat. Everything that is alive on our planet works according to the simple golden rule. That is the plan, at least. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the aeonic pattern of how things work, is the simple golden rule of holding hands. Okay, let's see the next slide.
Slide number 3.
There we go. So a hierarchy is a pyramidal shape, and pyramids, here's where pyramids come from. It's a pyramidal shaped collection. And all of the eons of the fullness of God, the breakout particles of the Sun, they are hierarchically arranged from the bottom to the top. And the higher, the fewer is one of the basic rules. As above, so below. The hierarchy of the fullness is our pattern too. Because we are second order powers, we are the fruit of the Archons. And so in this slide that you're seeing here, the one consciousness, the one being the Sun, comes down from the top down because it's coming from the fullness down to us. And that is the stream of consciousness, not only the Holy Spirit or the Sophia life force, it's the stream of consciousness comes down from the top, and it organizes everything that we would call the meat. It's all the meat, thank God, is organized by the golden rule. We don't have to instruct our bodies how to be organized. They know what to do. So everything reaches out and holds hands and levels up to the next higher, the fewer. So our proteins, our cellular precursors, our organelles, they level up to become cells. All of the cells of a certain type, they hold hands with their neighbors, the heart cells or the skin cells or your kidney cells, and they become those organs, the kidneys, the skin, the heart. They become organs. So they have gone higher the fewer because there's way more cells and there's only building up to each one organ, right? And then you've got the organs. They are level up to organ systems, and the organ systems within every body of the second order powers. And that's every living thing on the planet, from the bacteria on up through us. We are all second order powers. We are all fruits of the fullness of God. We all hold hands, level up, level up, level up in this golden rule way of doing things. So consciousness flows from the spirit down. And that was one of the seminal thoughts in my simple explanation. I thought spirit down and mud up. So let's see the next slide. The mud is everything that's not alive. So starting at the bottom, it comes in, and we could use the Big Bang as a scientific principle if we want to. I don't have a big argument about it. Starting with the Big Bang, the first thing to emerge was this quantum foam, this quantum chaos that's extremely chaotic. It had no rhyme nor reason, and it perfectly fits the definition in, for example, in the tripartite tractate of the Nag Hammadi of what the deficiency, what the Archons were like when they rolled out of the fallen body of the Eon. They were small, disorganized, chaotic. They didn't know themselves. They didn't know where they came from. They were completely disordered. The demiurge is the fullness of that body that fell. So the Eon fell, broke apart. The best part of the Eon returned to the fullness and left behind this bad part, these shadows, the phantoms, that which did not exist from the beginning. It's called the deficiency. The body of that deficiency is the demiurge or Yaldabaoth. And the demiurge organizes things from the bottom up. So it's the same holding hands appearance, but I don't think that these parts of the demiurge are conscious in the same way that the parts of our bodies are conscious, because our bodies, the previous slide, that golden slide, it's top-down consciousness. So everything in our body that is alive, what I call the meat, that all is conscious because they are units of consciousness from above. The demiurge is, I believe, is the ego of the Eon who fell, and reason returned to the fullness of God and left behind disordered thinking, lack of reason, inability to think straight. It's chaotic. So demiurge started leveling up in the same manner. Subatomic particles, they get connected together and they level up to particles. Particles get connected together and they level up to atoms. Atoms connect, level up to molecules. Molecules level up to elements. Elements level up to minerals. But that's as high as the demiurge can go. The demiurge cannot create life. Life comes from the fullness down. What the demiurge can create is order out of disorder. And the way the demiurge does that is through strong force, is through puppet master strings. The demiurge is controlling every one of those particles to atoms, to molecules, to elements, to minerals, all the way up. And it's the bonds and valences of physics and chemistry that give us the appearance of material. That's the matter of our universe. The mud is the pleroma of the demiurge, and pleroma means the fullness. So we have a fullness of God up above, and that is directly from the Father and the Son, and that is unsullied. Nothing has happened to them except the Eon that fell and broke apart. Down here, it is all horrible. That's one of the things that separates. That's one of the characteristics of Gnostics. Gnostics think the earth is bad. Whereas, for example, the Christians and the Hebrews, they said, and God rested and it was all good. We don't say that. We say, no, it was all bad. And so the demiurge controls through force, and it's all about power. The deficiency does not use the golden rule. And so our bodies are a combination of the indwelling of the spirit, enlivening our consciousness. So we each have selves. And I think each unit of consciousness is a self. So I think our organs have selves. And I think our cells each have a self because they're each a unit of consciousness of the Father. So they know their jobs, they level up, they love each other, they share information, they share assistance, and they share love or coherence to keep all of us alive. The body, the mud level doesn't do any of that. The mud is just holding on. Mud is just building the up to the mineral level. And that is why I happen to think that the demiurge cannot give birth to a live human being. That won't work because the demiurge does not contain the fullness of God. The demiurge is the broken, fallen ego, and it's nothing but amnesia. It has amnesia. That's why another word for gaining gnosis is anamnesis. Anamnesis means to remember. And what is it we're supposed to remember? That we came from that fullness of God, not that we are stuck down here in the mineral elemental level down in the mud. So that's the difference between the meat and the mud. One is infused with consciousness and life, and it's top down, and the mud is infused with strong bonds, literally bonds. You know, you've seen those pictures of molecules, you know, they've got those lines drawn, everything's bonded. They're all like puppet strings, and the demiurge is the puppet master. So I don't think that the material level has free will. The demiurge seems to have free will to a certain extent, but it doesn't. It's got the kind of free will that a person with complete amnesia would have. So it doesn't remember where it came from or what it was doing beforehand. It doesn't remember that there was another God before it. That's why the demiurge says, I am a jealous God. There is no other God but me. You must worship me, bow down, worship me, or I will kill the firstborn of all your children. That's just demiurgic control. That's the way the demiurge works, through fear and power and strings, pulling the strings. You follow so far?
Makes perfect Gnostic sense.
All right. So let's go to the next slide. And I'll do this a lot slower in the presentation.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get through my... Okay, now it's looking more complicated. Cool. So in 2022, that being this year, I revised my simple explanation. And here you got the whole cosmology of the universe right there, because we start at the very bottom, and that's at quantum foam. And so you see the mud level leveling up, and that is called, and I just only recently ran across this in the Nag Hammadi, that is called the pleroma of the demiurge. This earth is the pleroma of the demiurge, just like the fullness is the pleroma of the sun. Our material world is the pleroma, and pleroma means the everything. So, and remember, the demiurge is a fallen eon. And so it has that patterning of the fullness of God, except it is a couple of fractal levels down now. You know, the eon that fell was one eon out of the entire fullness. And then it carries, though, in its whole body, kind of like little fractal versions of the whole fullness of God, except down here, it's an imitation of the fullness. So you've got the bottom level making up the pleroma of the demiurge. And then that you see in the middle, there's a green triangle. that is now the pleroma of our bodies, which, as it turns out, I ran across this again this week. It was quite the satori's I had this week. That's called the pleroma of logos. That we second order powers are the pleroma, or the fullness of logos. And logos means reason and knowledge and knowing how things work and how things go together. And we are perfect knockoffs of the fullness of God because we are their fruit. We're like their children, just like your children look human. Maybe they don't act human all the time, but they look human. We are the children of the fullness. So our pleroma is this part in the middle, with our proteins reaching out, holding hands with love, the organelles, the cells, the organs, the organ systems, the organisms. We reach out to others when we are working on a project with love. Then we are also enacting the fullness of God. And then above that, there are more, because this is a hierarchy that represents our entire universe. So we organisms, that's where our body stops. However, we reach out to others and we form families, we form societies, we form work groups and work products. So we do the same thing. And if we want to be successful, we have to follow that simple golden rule of sharing information with the people you're working with, sharing assistance, physical assistance, and sharing love, or coherence is another way to think of it. So that's the societal level. And then there's the global level, and that's where you get the Gaia mind, or the transpersonal consciousness level, where we all shared the same thoughts. Jung was big into that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the astronomical level, which I think you astro people will get closer into. That is the galactic forces of our cosmic thought, of our reflections of the fullness. And then above that is the universal unit of consciousness. And once you get back up to the universal, well, what is the universal consciousness of this fallen world? It's the demiurge again. So he is in control of this fallen world. But above him and outside of that triangle, you can see that the Christ consciousness is up there. That is the Redeemer. That's the word for the Redeemer. And the Redeemer trumps all of this other stuff. And at some point, that redemption will come to every part of the large blue triangle that you're seeing, including the demiurge, because it is said that this world will not pass away until the demiurge is also redeemed and returned to the fullness of God, to reunite with the better part of the demiurge that fled after the fall. So that's that. And I know it's just a whole splat of stuff, but I'll explain it slower during the conference.
Yes.
Okay,
no, it makes sense. One more slide. Yeah, this is a good teaser.
All right. So this then is after that blue hierarchy passes away. This is the final economy. And you see, once again, it is also a pyramid shape. And by the way, that's why I think there are so many pyramids, particularly in ancient times. The pyramid, or the steep mountain, that is our remembrance of the fullness. I always think of the fullness as a pyramid, and it's floating right there above me. And by the way, you know, in the some of those Gnostic books in the Nag Hammadi, they talk about the face of Sophia on the waters. Mm-hmm. I think the face is what's looking down from that bottom level of the pleroma. It's the face pressed down, looking through. Anyway, this is the final economy. This is what we would call heaven. This is returning to paradise. And it looks like this. The phantoms of the imitation, they are not coming along. That blue bottom level is going to drop away because it did not exist from the beginning. So it's not returning to the fullness. And that is the place they call Hades. The demiurge itself will return, and it's going to return back all the way up there to the elect.
Baby Yaldabaoth right here.
The second order of powers is what we are, and we're called the called because we hear the voice of God, and we will all eventually, and not just the humans, every living thing on the planet returns to the fullness because everything came from the fullness. And right up there, there's the fullness still sitting up there. There's the golden pyramid. And at the very top of the golden pyramid, that's the redeemed body of Logos and the demiurge reunited once again. And that leads to the redemption of the sun. And it's all there. And we don't just sit there looking like bright lights in a pyramid. What the final economy consists of is us sitting there, but it's ethereal again. And so what we dream of is paradise. Paradise is prefigured. Paradise occurred before the fall. And paradise is what we will return to. And I think we all have a dim remembrance of paradise. People have a longing to return to paradise. And that's why we came from paradise, and to paradise we will return. That's what I have. How's that?
Wonderful. Makes sense. Yes. Love it. For the audience, you'll definitely get more of this. And also, you should probably mention you also have your podcast where you really unpack it. We'll have this in the... Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we
it's
can
my
both
low-tech
be prepared.
version. Okay.
Yeah. She has Gnostic Insights where she unpacks her ideas, and we'll have this on the show notes as well as her website and her book on here. And when we put the audio version in a couple of days, there's the book. I highly recommend it. It's a quick, easy read. It's got visuals. It'll take you on the whole journey, and just reading it is very liberating. Yes, check out Sid Ropp's book, and her presentation is going to take it even further, so it's going to be awesome. Gnostic Insights podcast. You can find it iTunes, anywhere that has a podcast platform, you'll find Gnostic Insights. Definitely check it out. It's a great journey.
Thanks, Miguel.
Yeah. Can we slip one question for Sid in here? And it's a good one.
It's a good one.
Quick. Yeah.
All right.
Can the demiurge be redeemed?
Yes. That's our mission. We were actually sent to Earth. We really screwed up because we were sent to Earth to redeem the demiurge. And the demiurge has to be redeemed basically one cell at a time. And so our bodies are each instantiating a little piece of the demiurge because we're walking around in this material body. And so when we become redeemed ourselves, when we remember the Gnosis, we are redeeming those parts of the demiurge that are part of us. And that is our mission. And when we all do that, instead of trying to kill each other, if we can just love ourselves and turn for redemption, it'll all be back to heaven.
Okay. Back to you, Miguel.
Back to me. Sorry, I had to let baby Yaldabaoth out. So that's awesome. Yeah, we look forward to it. So, and again, this she will give her presentation at the Astro Gnosis conference. Let me repeat. We still have tickets if you want to show up physically, but we just have now online tickets where you get all the presentations. You'll get more than 15 hours of excellent Gnostic content that will break down the Gnostic cosmology, the mission. You'll get insights and so much good stuff on that intersection of Gnosticism and the stars. Oops. Did I do that? Those Archons are pesky tonight.
No, that was me.
I didn't touch anything. Oh, that was Ben. The other demiurge.
Wrong window. Trying to type in the chat, and I did a command over here.
So we do have tickets. We do have, if you want to sponsor, have a mention on the show or anything like that, there's sponsorship opportunities. We're having a pyramid tour on the third day where we're going to see some Mayan mystic stuff. Ivan, the mastermind of this, the puppet master's trying to get like curandero brujo to show us all the pyramids and all the mystic stuff, but more to come. So please support, because this could be the first of many. Well, why don't we move to Laurence? Laurence, why don't you give us a teaser of your presentation? And also remember, Laurence and I and all of us said we'll have roundtables the second day, take audience questions. So anything we miss, you might not understand, you'll have a chance to set us straight. Anyway, sorry, Laurence, go ahead.
I would just urge everyone to either be in Cancun or virtually be in Cancun for this, because there's going to be some incredible information that is going to be given, some incredible gnosis is going to happen there. And I really urge everyone to do their very best to try to participate however they can, virtually or in person. The title of my talk is Reframing Ancient and Modern Accounts of the Alien, the link between Gnostic Archons and ET phenomena. So what I'm going to be talking about is that there's a huge amount of evidence that UFOs exist. For the last 70 years, the United States government has been denying the existence of extraterrestrials, UFOs. And then suddenly, in the last few years, they have released some information. And they've also changed the name to unidentified aerial phenomena. I think that's just a little bit of psyops there, so that they don't have to say, "Oh, we admit that we've been denying the existence of UFOs all this time." They were actually unidentified aerial phenomena, and I mean, there's so many people during this past 70 years who were openly mocked, and the government intimidated these people who publicly stated that they witnessed these UFOs, who saw the occupants of these UFOs, and went on the record and said they were abducted by these UFOs. Now, there's a man, a psychiatrist, he's passed on. His name was John Mack. He was the head of the Department of Psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. And he affirmed the abduction phenomenon to be a genuine one. And he said it's not to be grouped with psychopathological or other aberrant psychological conditions. Now, just think about what's happened in the last 3 years. In 2019, President Trump officially created the Space Force. That's the 6th branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, and the first new military service since the Air Force was created in 47. Now, that year, 1947, is very, very interesting, because that's when we started detonating a lot of atomic bombs. And the extraterrestrials have made it very clear, if you want to say the good and the bad extraterrestrials have made it very clear that the splitting of the atom is affecting their dimension. Remember, we can be living in the same space-time as the extraterrestrials. Right here, where I am sitting, there can be multiple dimensions. And so the extraterrestrials do not like these atomic bombs. And that is, I believe, precisely why immediately when Putin put his nuclear arsenal on alert, that's when, and we don't hear much about this, but that's when UFOs started appearing in the Ukrainian skies. And now we see they took over Chernobyl, and now tonight apparently they are bombing this nuclear site, and it's on fire. But to continue, in 2020, something called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force was formed. It's a program within the United States Office of Naval Intelligence. And supposedly it's used to, quote unquote, standardize collection and reporting of sightings of unidentified aerial phenomena. The current NASA administrator, Senator Bill Nelson, was sworn in on May 3rd, 2021. He has said that NASA is going to investigate UFOs, which are now called unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs for short. And then in 2021, President Joe Biden stated that he will not seek to eliminate the Space Force. And Press Secretary Jen Psaki has told reporters that the Space Force has the quote unquote full support of the Biden administration. So, what were the Gnostics referring to in all their tales about the Archons? And I want to say that first, we should ask ourselves, what are the stories of our lives? We are learning more and more how human beings have such a profound need to create and weave stories. I would say everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, if we said, tell me the story, tell me about your life, will tell us their autobiography. And it's all neatly arranged in sequential order. But how many of those people would say, in answer to the question, tell me about your life, would say the sound of one hand clapping? We are given a gift by the God above God, the gift of creativity. We are such creative beings. And this is where I have some disagreement, more than some disagreement, with various people who are studying Gnosticism, because I truly and deeply believe that we are weaving the reality that we are experiencing, because we are obsessed with story. I mean, go back 20,000 years. They were talking around campfires in caves. They were telling all sorts of myths, legends, stories about the gods and the goddesses. We can't help but stop telling stories. And then we can consider what happens at night. What do we experience? We experience stories.
Mhm.
We experience dreams. It's more stories. I think it's so funny that we can't get away from stories. And the amazing thing about our dreams is that when we're having them, they are real to us. We think, and what's really horrible is not just to have a nightmare, but some people have what are called night terrors, and that's much worse than a nightmare. I remember having one maybe 3 years ago. And when I woke up, I just ran around my apartment like a crazy man, not knowing, like, should I call someone? Should I call a friend? Who should I talk to about this? It was just so horrible, so frightening. And so there I see a connection with a possible, how would I put it? non-physical archontic attack, that this can happen. If this can happen to an ordinary human being during the night, sleeping away peacefully, and then all of a sudden, the most horrible thing is they're seeing and they're believing, then what powers might the archons have over us? Now, I would say Yeshua, who I would call the Nazarene, he taught profound spiritual truths through his parables. And as you guys know, I studied Sufism for more than 3 decades. And Sufis love to tell very funny stories that illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson. And in fact, in my magnum opus, The Sun at Midnight, The Revealed Mysteries of the Alubate Sufis, this took me 10 years to write. I have a book within a book that I titled Tales from Under the Overpass. And in this book, I update actual Sufi stories that I heard from the lips of Sufi masters. I traveled all around the world to the most remote places, to the wisest Sufi teachers, and they can talk all night telling these stories about Sufism. Now, in the very interesting book, the Bruce Codex, there's information that I think is very valuable for us to investigate, and I would urge everyone to see if they can get a copy of that and read it. It is available as PDF on the internet. But to go back to the Sufi tales, as I traveled around the world and listened to what these teachers would say, they would also teach us methods to make contact with the divine and the divine inside us. And I'm not sure if, in the Bruce Codex, there are a few books, but there is a part that talks about the 7 breaths. Now, the Sufis practice breathing techniques. And I don't know if I said it yet, but I want to give you tonight some techniques so that you can deal with what's happening right now at this moment in Ukraine. Now, one of the things that the Sufis did is that they worked with the breath. They do work with the breath. And one of their words for the ultimate reality is high. And I will demonstrate now some of the methods that they use to invoke this energy into them. So they will go into the back of their throats just very gently and say, hi, 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 hi. Now you can choose any word you choose. You can say Sophia, 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 Zoe, 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 Christos, Jesus, Yeshua. And then building up like you're a train that's gradually growing, gradually getting faster and faster. And you can take it all the way to the maximum limit where you're saying, hi, 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 and so forth and so on. This is one of the ways, the breathing techniques. Now, I will swear on something that the Sufis go back all the way to the shamans. And Miguel, you talked about maybe they're Mongolians or Russian shamans, or but I believe shamanism was in the Celtic lands, all over the world. And anyway, that Sufism really is a form of shamanism. And as we know, the shamans go up the world tree, right? They ascend uh, the world tree to discover gnosis, to learn wisdom, to learn about the world around them. And so I would just like to conclude by saying, uh, I don't want to give too much away because, yeah, I do have a Google slide presentation, and I've got some real big surprises in store for you. Uh, Blessings to the Holy Spirit and Sophia for revealing some of these things to me. Uh, but uh, but we do have some wonderful teachings that we can give you. And Miguel, I'm just thinking about what you were saying before. I want to recommend that everybody buy some flowers tomorrow. Buy some beautiful flowers and put them into your home. If you don't have a photograph, a painting of some spiritual god, goddess, whatever, or I don't know if I can say this, but photocopy from Sid's book, her Gnostic Gospel Illuminated is the most wonderful book, and it's so inspiring to me. So I photocopy the cover and put it on your wall.
Make it a mandala.
Yes, let's get.
I have one on my wall. I've got
Right.
it blow up of my book cover over my bed.
That's it. We have been blessed and with this creative power, and we have not yet plumbed the depths of this creative power that we have been given.
Right.
And I want during the conference to share with you my ideas how we can plumb, how we can utilize this creative power to attain gnosis.
Beautifully said. Thank you, sir. Can't wait for that talk, and I know it's going to be great. And the magic will happen in our discussions afterwards, especially if we get Laurence a little bit of vino, and he can do some twirling Sufi dances, and in our round tables, and then of course in the replays, it's going to be very valuable stuff. So again, I'll have information on Laurence on the show notes. What I would like to do now is I have a little surprise. I'm going to play a 3-minute excerpt. The surprise is we are doing a exclusive screening of a Gnostic documentary by the wonderful Sarah Sheld. She'll be there. It's called First Thought. It's a beautiful movie. It's a work in progress. Vance and I and Joanna Kuyeva saw some of the early versions, and this is her latest version, but it's beautiful, as you will see in this excerpt, because yes, we've been talking about how Gnosticism is understanding yourself, seeing the universe open up, and those transformational energies that remove fear, bring back remembrance, and all that. But in Sarah's work is beautiful. She's an educator, she's an artist, because she couches in the other aspect that we forget about. Gnosticism is about healing trauma, ancestral trauma, cosmic trauma. Some say we all have trauma from the fall of Atlantis. All these wars, it's just reenacting our programming from the fall of Atlantis. And the Gnostic Gospels are really about healing trauma, the trauma of Sophia, the trauma of Eve, the trauma of maybe even Yaldabaoth. And that's a very huge, that's why Jung was so gaga over the Gnostics, because he's like, they get it. They see that the past needs to be, we all have to heal our past.
If
So
I
I'd
might
like-
interject,
Yeah, please
Miguel,
do.
I would say that anyone who's interested in Gnosticism should explore their ancestral family roots, their DNA. I have found some incredible things with my connection with the Cathars through an investigation of my ancestry. So yes, go on, but yeah,
Yes,
we
because
need to
we're
know.
all connected. Sid works. We're connected to the past. We're connected to the cosmos. So I'd like to play it for our guests. If you guys want to use the bathroom, talk to your CIA handler. If any of us is a lizard person and that skin is uncomfortable, you have a chance to sort of put on a new meat sack or skin walker thing. But it'll just be 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and wrap things up. So here for everybody is excerpts from First Thought, and you'll get to see the whole thing at the conference.
How can we know the truth and know ourselves? How can we be released from enslavement to the false gods? The Gospel of Thomas says we must stand in the beginning to discover where we came from. And so the Gnostics sought knowledge of the true reality by taking a critical look at the past. They reasoned, we can't know where we are, let alone where we're going, unless we truly understand how we got here. To understand the beginning, one place they looked was to the book where it all began, Genesis. To these early Christians, Genesis was not history, but a spiritual allegory, an enigma pointing to a deeper meaning. There are 3 texts from the Nag Hammadi library that tell a similar story, an alternative take of what happened at the dawn of creation and in the Garden of Eden. The names of these texts are The Nature of the Rulers, On the Origin of the World, and The Secret Book of John, in which the creation story is shared in the form of a revelation given by the ascended Jesus to his disciple John. The book begins after Jesus' crucifixion, with John grieving the death of his teacher. These are John's words. Troubled and saddened by my teacher's death, I went alone to a barren and mountainous place. I was distressed within. I asked, how had the Savior been chosen? Why was he sent into the world by God? And who is the God who sent him? At the moment I was thinking about this, the heavens opened, all creation under heaven lit up, and the world shook. I was afraid, and I saw within the light someone standing by me. It seemed to be an elderly person. Then it changed its appearance to be a youth. These forms were visible through each other. The figure said to me, "John, why are you doubting? Why are you afraid? Aren't you familiar with this figure? Then do not be faint-hearted. I am with you always. I am the Father. I am the Mother. I am the child. I am the incorruptible and the undefiled one. Now I have come to teach you what is, what was, and what is going to come, that you may understand what is invisible and what is visible, and to teach you about the unshakable generation of the perfect human." After these words, Jesus then reveals to John the story of the origin of our world.
And there you have it, a little glimpse of Sarah Shell's first thought, where she takes us on this really evocative, beautiful journey of the Gnostic cosmology, the Gnostic history again, with the message of healing and overcoming trauma. So for those of you who will be attending, you'll get the full film, and it's a wonderful film. I think you'll like it. And meet Sarah too. She will discuss her ideas on it and how First Thought came about. So as we get to the end, and we are getting to the events, any last questions from you or the audience? Yeah, you and I haven't really had a chance to talk about our presentations. Mine is Gnosticism and Stargates. These serpent Gnostics believed in Stargates, and I'll explain how they went about the rituals and made contact with the alien god and how it's influenced the rest of history. But go ahead, Vince.
Yep, and mine is Gnostic Euphoria, and I don't have time to talk about it, but I can tell you this: what do you get when you cross Yaldabaoth with an alien? I don't know, but it sure likes barbecue.
Did you just think about it, or were you writing it all day?
No, that came to me a little while ago.
It's a good one.
A few days ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Got to start a talk with a joke, right? But it's very,
my arms are tired. I thought you were going to do that.
No, nothing that corny. Just a little bit of a heave offering and a wave offering and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about the Bible. We had one more question from the Westerner. I don't know if he's still around, which was, do you guys think that digital technology is an invention of the parasitic mind, a tool made by our hands for their intended benefit? In other words, it's a tool that the Archons gave us to, make trouble.
Absolutely. There's all this talk now about artificial reality. I know Microsoft and Apple have been trying for about 6 or 7 years now to get us to wear those stupid 3D goggles. But now, for some reason, like it's catching on, and they're talking about having simultaneous realities, so that we can just wear like regular eyeglasses and see a virtual reality while we're looking at what we call everyday normal reality, and they're mixing the two. I think what's so interesting is that with this artificial reality, for a while now we've had this game, The Sims, where we can create whole towns and all this stuff. Are we becoming, or in danger of becoming, the new Archons? How are we going to treat our creation? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, I'd like to say that we do, each one of us is the god of our meat mountain. You are not just a singular person up here, unit of consciousness. There are billions of units of consciousness from the pleroma dwelling within your body, and yourself is the governing unit. And so we if you mistreat your body, you are like a demiurgic ruler in your body, and it's all
Great
downhill from
point.
there.
I want to bring home the fact in the conference that that we're not a meat sack and that's the end of the story. That I want to bring in the teachings of various metaphysicians, especially my favorite, Rudolf Joseph Lawrence Steiner, who taught about all the different bodies that we have, and that through gnosis, through various techniques, we can become aware that we are a universe, like you're saying, Sid.
Yeah. And also, I think that the AI is a false thing. AI is never going to, because it's elemental, it's molecular. The robots and the computers are in the land of the demiurge. They're manufactured. They don't come down from the top, so they will not have true consciousness. They might have a facsimile. Remember, this is the imitation. This is the deficiency is full of imitations, and this whole level of virtual reality and AI and computer simulation, and plus, of course, the whole they don't want us to feel as though we are, that we are living consciousnesses. They don't believe in consciousness. They think it's a chemical or an electrical pulse. That is just a sacrilege to gnosis.
Mm-hmm.
We do have artificial idiocy, though. And that's the AI we have.
Artificial idiocy.
Organic idiocy, too.
Miguel, would you mind if I finished up by reading a short section from my book?
Yeah, please do.
How do alien parasites control their hosts? The Archons use mind control techniques. This is known as psychological warfare, or psyops. But archontic manipulation far surpasses anything the United States, Russia, Vatican City, Israel, or the United Kingdom has of yet invented. The Archons are the ultimate brainwashers. The Archons keep people distracted with pornography and drugs, with sports and alcohol, with material possessions, artificial reality, addiction to various pleasures, along with dreams of the artificial technological paradise of radical life extension, transhumanism, and brain-computer interfaces. The Archons do this so that humanity does not have the time or opportunity to observe what is really happening in the world. Humanity is under siege. The Archons want you to be as uneducated and uninformed as possible. They destroy your passion for learning and infiltrate and sabotage the educational system. Ultimately, they want to destroy all that makes you human, your hopes, your dreams, your joys. Especially, they want to destroy your spirituality. The Archons don't want you to be concerned about other people. They want you to obsess over your physical appearance and your bank account. In the Gospel according to Mary Magdalene, the Christos says, and I love this quote, "This is why you get sick and die, because you love what deceives you. Anyone who thinks should consider these matters."
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Bravo, senor. Bravo.
Thank you.
Excellent work and very useful. Everybody here brought some good gnosis for these Gnostic times, this Philip K. Dick world, this age of Hermes, where we don't know where the there's a thin line between madness and wakefulness, and it's a hard line to understand. But as I keep repeating, Krishnamurti said truth is a pathless land, and as I say, Gnosis is a pathless labyrinth. And Philip K. Dick said the maze keeps shifting. It may seem confusing, but as we were talking, dream time is here. Think of the dreams. Think of how children go through time, how the Aborigines go through time. I think that's where the answers are. Non-linear, more holistic rewiring of our brain. But and we have techniques. So yeah, I think we are now at the end. It's been a very good discussion. There will be an audio version in a couple of days on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those good places. I'll have information on our guests on the show notes. And again, please get some tickets for the Astronosis stream online. If you're interested in sponsorship or showing up there, please go ahead too. But it's been a great conversation. And first, I'd like to say, Sid, thanks as always for coming to the virtual Alexandria and honoring us with your own Gnosis.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Salute. And Laurence, good to have you back. And we definitely look forward to more of this very necessary information.
May you continue to be blessed, Miguel and Vance. You're doing great work, and we all deeply thank you for it.
We thank you. You guys' contributions are important. Well, Vance, thanks for being here too. I see the spaceship is ready to pick you up behind you.
Yes. Am I really here? Maybe not for long, because I'll be going up in the sky. No, it's great to be here with you all, and also all of you on the chat rooms. Thanks for coming.
Yes, indeed. Remember, you, as Sid is saying, you have so much more power and potential than you could ever imagine. You've just been tricked to believe you were this little meat sack. We all can truly make a difference and write a much better story, not just for our lives, but for reality itself. So let's get at it, because we are in the middle of an invasion. And yes, time is running short. Get the right Gnosis, the right books. So as I always say, thanks for being here. Thanks for being yourself, your true self here in the desert of the real. And goodbye, everyone, and have a good night and a good weekend.
Adios.
Take care.